What is up, ladies and gents? Nola here. Welcome to another Payday 2 video. Today we're going to be taking a look at another build. I haven't done this in a little while and I'm happy to be back. And I think I've got for you one of the strongest builds currently out there. If not the strongest, it is certainly one of the most enjoyable to use, as ever with the Flamethrower. But this one has a little extra element to it, which is the pistol secondary, which you can of course use as a very effective weapon, but more so than anything, it is a means to an end. Following recent updates, including the weapon skin update and of course the stat boost and team boost update, we can now modify a flamethrower build to have lower than 35 detection risk. Now this is very important because that means the flamethrower now has access to skills like Sneaky Bastard. With skills like that, we can now do critical damage, which might not seem like an awful lot. My flamethrower currently has, I believe, something like 11.5 damage, so a critical hit will multiply that by whatever the headshot damage multiplier is. But that doesn't seem like an awful lot when you compare it to the critical sniper build where you've got 200 plus damage multiplied. Yeah, that's loads of damage. But what you can't forget with this weapon, in a way not too dissimilar to the minigun, which also works along these same lines, is that it's got a ridiculous fire rate, a fire rate of 200 to be precise. So every single shot that's going out has a chance to crit. And with that fire rate, on average, roughly 1 in every 3 shots, just under 1 in every 3 shots with this build is going to do critical damage, which means you will melt through every single enemy type, even the problem ones. And the beauty of the flamethrower is it is strong against every single special enemy, standard enemy, everything. So, without further ado, let's get on to the details of the build. Okay, so to kick things off, let's take a look at the skills used in this build. It's not a particularly unusual skill setup, really. You can see this kind of skill setup on any sort of pistol-focused build with akimbos, but of course we don't go into the akimbo skill. We'll see that later over on Fugitive. So, making our way up, we max out endurance as ever. We get a maxed out leadership. That's mainly just to push us up to things like Dominator, which are of course essential for the harder difficulties where players may be getting down and going into custody. Equilibrium for our pistol secondary. A single point in Spotter. You're going to be marking special enemies, and the 15% extra damage is always good. Our equipment of choice is the medkits, Combat Doctor. This is certainly a good shout because this build is definitely designed for Death Wish and Overkill difficulties, where having the medkits is basically essential. Next up, we have Gunslinger. Again, there's that little pistol focus. While our pistol is not going to be the strongest we could possibly have because it's had to be modified in order to make this build work, drop that detection risk down, we still want it to be a viable secondary weapon. Another option, if you're not interested in using the pistol at all, and it really is just a means to an end, is Kilmer. The only real shortfall of this build, I would say, is the ridiculously long reload speed, or ridiculously slow, I think would be the best way to say it, of the flamethrower. If I had something like Hot Sudden, I could tell you, but it seems like close to 8, 9, 10 seconds. So Kilmer's going to allow you to run and reload, which can be very, very useful. However, I've chosen to go with Gunslinger because I want this build to be a little more versatile. Don't want to have to focus too much on the flamethrower, because if you do, you're going to need ammo bags, which you're not always going to have access to on a heist. Next up, we have Inspire. Very standard high-level skill that you're going to need to complete Death Wish heists. This build carries it, despite being focused on slaying the enemies. So already, we've got amazing utility, and we'll get onto the amazing damage. Moving on up, we have Enforcer, Transporter aced out as ever, and also Pumping Iron, just a basic in that. The beauty of the Flamethrower is that it has the stun effect. Of course, when you hit someone with the flames and they set alight, they will be stunned and they'll be trying to put themselves out. During that time, a quick melee hit can easily one-shot kill them after the flamethrowers, drop their health just a little bit. Great way to conserve ammo and to deal with groups very easily without having any return of fire. I wish I could ace this out. We'll get onto later how it's possible that I could do that. There are absolutely no skills found in Technician. Of course, in Ghost, we have Sprinter aced. You need that on every build. Sadly, to my shame, we can't pick up Fast Hands completely. We can only get the 25% faster interaction, not the additional 50. That is a skill point lack that is caused by. I literally cannot spare the 3 points required. However, when we get onto Fugitive, I will show you a way you could potentially consider it. So, moving on up, Fugitive, we're going to need Hidden Blade aced out to, well, you just need it basic, but ace it out to push us up the skills. That's because we want the melee weapon concealment. I get Daredevil again, moving up the skills. 2 important skills, though, are Run and Gun and Duck and Cover. Run and Gun is going to be really useful for when you whip out the pistol. Brother's Keeper is going to allow us to move all the way up to Swan Song. We ace that one out, not only because this is an Inspire build and you can really clutch things with Swan Song, but also because I find Swan Song works really nicely with weapons like the Flamethrower with very good fire rate, decent range, as the range is on the Flamethrower. It's not as bad as you might think it is. And that don't like to shoot ammo if they can avoid it. So when you go into Swan Song, you can easily deal with whatever things took you out in the first place. Swan Song has really cemented itself as one of my favourite and most enjoyable skills in the game. Next up, importantly, we're going to want to ace out Low Blow. I said Sneaky Bastard before, that is actually the dodge skill. I meant Low Blow, that is what's going to give us the critical hits. When we ace that one out, because our detection risk is 26, I'll show you that a little later on, we're actually going to get a 27% chance to crit. So just over 1 in 4, in between 1 in 3. And that is not bad at all. With Sneaky Bastard, we're going to get a 9% additional chance to dodge, which is not bad at all. But I would consider dropping this skill altogether. Dropping the dodge chance. I'd rather not. I really appreciate the extra 9% chance to dodge. You can drop it altogether or just drop the ace. If you just drop the ace, I believe you're going to get, what? 2% chance to dodge. That's not worth it at all. No, you'll get more than that, sorry. 3, yeah, you'll get 3%. Still not worth it. And if you do choose to drop Sneaky Bastard, you can have 12 points to play around with. I recommend 3 of them go there. Another 1 goes into Cleaner. We move on over to Enforcer. 3 more of them go there. Another 4 go to Stun Resistance. I think that gives you 1 more point to go anywhere you want. It could be Die Hard. It could be Underdog. Anything like that. So you can consider dropping these. I choose not to. Generally will recommend to you guys not to as well, because we are going to be wearing the suit, of course. So yeah, I'd recommend keeping a hold of Sneaky Bastard. Okay, so before we take a look at the end stats, you're seeing over there on the left, I think we're best taking a look at the weapons and their potential stats that we can get them up to. So let's first of all modify the Flamethrower. Now, the Flamethrower, of course, doesn't have many attachments at all, though there is still a choice you're going to have to make. Do I pick up the concealment boost or do I pick up the damage boost? I think total ammo is not really worth it. It's only going to give you plus 30, and that's not enough increased crit shots for me to consider it. I'm more likely to go for concealment. Concealment is my personal choice overall. What concealment is going to do is just give you plus 1 to concealment, but what that actually does to your detection risk is lower it by 3. This is going to translate into 9% greater chance to crit and 3% chance to dodge. So to me, that is definitely the best trade-off. However, some people have argued that the more consistent damage and increased crit damage that just putting on the damage boost will give you is worth more. I don't think so. I'd say keep to the concealment. You also have a choice with magazine. I would never recommend you go for well done. However, rare or no mag is always something you can put into consideration. I personally go rare. I think being able to shoot more fire down range is worth it. So we go for the additional total ammo because that's just going to give us more chances to crit, which is what this build is all about. That's going to leave our stats with this weapon at max size of 300, which is very tasty. Total ammo of 750 following the rare modification. Rate of fire 2000, I've already mentioned that. That is what makes these crits so damn good. Damage is slightly lower than what we'd like it to be at 11.5. Don't worry about accuracy or stability. It's important you get your concealment up to 8, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is, of course, with the concealment boost. So there we go, that's the Flamethrower. The secondary weapon is the BERNETTI. There's a little more to this one. Before I get into the attachments I choose to use with it, basically they're just ones that will not lower your concealment. The beauty of the BERNETTI is the boost interaction. Both the BERNETTI and I believe it's the Bronco, following the addition of stat boosts, have a +3 interaction with the concealment boost. Both these weapons have base 30, which is going to bring the concealment up to a maximum of 33, and it's these two weapons that you have to choose between. The reason why I choose the BERNETTI, even though I think the Bronco is a better weapon, is that the BERNETTI is a better weapon at 33 concealment, if you know what I mean. It has more modifications that allow it to exist with that very high concealment. So the barrel exit is the flash hider, because it doesn't bother concealment one bit. Don't bother with gadgets. Grip is the engraved BERNETTI grips. Get that stability completely maxed out. I'd love to bring along the extended mag, however we can't because we don't want to affect the concealment of this weapon. Sight, marksman sight, and finally upper receiver is the elite slide. Not only is it a half decent weapon, it also looks absolutely beautiful. So there we go, that is our BERNETTI modification. That leaves us with a mag size of 14, total ammo of 154, not shabby at all. A massive fire rate of 133. Thanks to the skill setup, a damage of 55.9, which also is pretty good. In fact, you could even exist at 37. I definitely think there's some argument to go for Kilmer here, but I'd rather have the additional damage. Accuracy of 60, the perfect stability of 100, and finally concealment of 33. And there we go, those are our two weapons to give us the stats we need. Next up, we're going to take a look at the melee weapon, which is, if you ask me, really just one option. It is the ice pick. Now, we just got a couple of things to round off the build. We already know the equipment is the doctor bag. I bring this over the med kit because we use the grinder perk deck. You guys all know what grinder does by now. You do damage, you get health back. It means that the first aid meds are not nearly as good, and you're best bringing doctor's bags along because they're going to reset your downs, which is going to really help the team and yourself out because you don't need the healing at all with grinder. And the Flamethrower is one of the best grinder weapons, and so is the Molotov cocktail, which is why we choose to bring that as the throwable, because they do damage over time, which continuously ticks grinder over and over. So they are the perfect weapons for grinder in this setup. And we already have a decent amount of dodge innately, bringing along the two-piece suit. And of course, we've got skills in the fugitive skill tree doing exactly that, giving us more dodge. So we wouldn't need something like Rogue. We're best off with Grinder. So yeah, Molotov, as I said, again, great interaction with Grinder. And also very good for Death Wish. Really good at holding down positions of importance. The ice pick is the melee of choice. I really don't think there is a choice to be made here. I really like this melee weapon added in the Point Break heist. It is essentially the katana, works very similarly. It's got great damage, and with this build, as I've mentioned, I think one of the great focuses is you're able to torch people really quickly and then run up and one-shot them with the melee. And the ice pick is the best melee to do this with. It's got a reasonably fast fire swing rate, not got the best range, but it's not bad at all. And its damage and knockdown is also pretty damn solid. So yeah, definitely bring the ice pick along in this build. And of course, you can max out pumping iron to really increase that damage if you choose to drop something like Sneaky Bastard. So that is the build. It's going to give us 20 armor, of course, with the two-piece suit. 322 health, 31 concealment overall, speed of, I don't know why, I did not know you actually had an overall concealment value. Your movement speed across ground is going to be 40.3, dodge of 19, not too bad, steadiness of 11, and finally stamina 51.3. Pretty standard eventual stats for a completed build. The beauty of this build is within the weapons, I would say. Finally, to close it all off, we're of course going to fight fire with fire, wearing the firefighter's helmet. And yeah, that is the build. We are now the TF2 Pyro. You know, that one who brings the Phlogistinator along, does the stupid taunt animation, and suddenly crits you forever. That's basically what we're going for here with this build. So let's move on to a little bit of gameplay. Alright, so I've got about 6 minutes worth of assorted clips for you guys here. Instead of me doing one specific part of a gameplay, I thought it would be best just to show this weapon at its finest, and occasionally at its worst when you see me reloading for about half an hour. All these clips of gameplay are taken from 2 heists that I did last night on my stream. If you're interested in watching the stream, the link to that will be in the description below. Follow me there and you'll get all the notifications. I also post a YouTube video out, so if you just happen to be passing by and you see that, do please come along. You'll notice the chat at times is interesting, to say the least. Of course, I'm playing with you guys in the heist. So, yeah, these clips come from the Santa's Workshop heist and Hotston Breakout Day 2, and I hope they will showcase the weapon to an extent where you see just how powerful it is on the overkill difficulty. After this, we actually did a mission on Death Wish. It was Hotston Revenge, and we aced it. We didn't have any troubles with it at all. Now, Hotston Revenge is not the hardest Death Wish heist, but it certainly can get quite intense when you're stuck inside that building, and this Flamethrower is absolutely perfect for dealing with those sort of issues. I remember at one point I got taken out on the staircase by a bulldozer, put into Swan Song, and cleared out about 3 or 4 bulldozers within just a few seconds. And at that point I wasn't even at level 100 as I am now. I didn't have Inspire fully aced out. Once you've got that going, this is the perfect damage dealing support build. The Flamethrower is so much fun. For me these days with Payday, a lot of the weapons are viable, so the thing you're really looking for is the fun factor, and that's exactly what this builds. I also personally really enjoy using pistols and shooting those helmets off with a bit of precision, and the BERNETTI is actually pretty damn good for that with that 55 damage overall. There's a little bit of wasted damage in there, but oh well. And yeah, you'll see currently we are trying to do the defending of the safe, and we get incredibly close to doing it on the Santa's Workshop job. Maybe half a second worth of reviving on the doctor's bag would have allowed us to complete it, but no, not quite. We do end up with a teammate in custody, which immediately ends the section, the safe defense. So yeah, I'm not going to talk over all this gameplay. The Hotston Breakout stuff is a little more standard than the craziness you're going to see on the Santa's Workshop, but I hope it will show you just how much fun I was having with this build on stream. And also, upon watching my whole stream gameplay back, I noticed I do something really quite funny. I just sort of strafe from side to side occasionally, and you can see that's actually when I'm reading a comment or something that I see in the chat which interests me. It's funny, it must be absolutely terrible to watch, but you know, we're not just there to make some good gameplay when we're streaming. It's more just about the good conversation than anything else, and so I've been having an absolute ball streaming so far this week, and I hope that continues. It's only Wednesday, so there's still a fair few more days to go. I hope you have enjoyed this build video. One of the most powerful and enjoyable builds going around in Payday 2 right now. It is the Crit Flamethrower build, the Phlogistinator Pyro, if you will. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.